Hello and welcome back as we continue learning about advanced DNS, CDN, and failover networking. In this particular lesson, we're going to focus on CDN or content delivery as we talk about CloudFront. So let's dive into CloudFront over here in the Orion papers. And we can also click on CloudFront over here in the AWS console by coming under Network and Content Delivery and clicking on CloudFront. So let's first talk about some CloudFront essentials, and then we'll come back and describe what's going on here in this particular diagram. So what exactly is CloudFront? Well, CloudFront is a global CDN which delivers content from an origin location, meaning that is the source of the content, to an edge location, which is an AWS CDN data center. An edge location allows for the caching of static objects from the origin location. An origin can be an S3 bucket or an elastic load balancer that distributes requests among origin EC2 instances. CloudFront can integrate with Route 53 for alternate CNAMEs, and this allows you to create a URL such as cdn.mydomain.com that works with your distribution. So what are some of the benefits of CloudFront? Why would you use this particular service? Well, users experience lower latency and content loading time, and also it reduces load on your application's resources, meaning the origin services, thus reducing overall cost. So let's now jump back to the diagram and I'll explain exactly how all of this works. So on our CloudFront diagram here, there's three main components that we need to know about. First is the CloudFront origin, the second are our edge locations, and the third is the user that's going to be accessing our content. So first, let's understand exactly what CloudFront origins are and how they work. So CloudFront origins, again, are basically just the location of the source of the content. So where are the original versions of the static objects that we're going to be serving up to our user? Where are they located? And currently with CloudFront, we can use an elastic load balancer that is distributing traffic to various EC2 instances. So the EC2 instances themselves become the main origin, or an S3 bucket can also be an origin because we can store static objects in an S3 bucket. We then have edge locations. And again, an edge location is an AWS data center which does not contain AWS services. Instead, it is used to deliver content to parts of the world. And as we know, an example of this, which we're talking about right now, is utilized by CloudFront to cache objects at these various locations. And then we have our user up here that is going to access content through our web application. So for example, if our customer here, or if our user inputs a URL into their web browser and the underlying application that they're going to access uses CloudFront as a distribution mechanism, what occurs is that request will come across the open internet. Generally, we'll have Route 53 set up to route that traffic to our CloudFront distribution. And then what CloudFront is going to do is it's going to choose an edge location that is going to serve up the content to our customer. So how does it choose the edge location that's going to serve up the content? Well, it does that by location. So if our customer is located in Europe, it is going to choose the edge location that is closest to that person in Europe. So let's say hypothetically for our diagram here, this edge location is located in the United States. This edge location is located in Europe. This edge location is located in Asia, and this edge location is located in South America. So if our customer is located in Europe and accesses this application, CloudFront is going to select this edge location to serve the cached files up to the customer from, because again, the customer is in Europe and also this particular edge location is in Europe. However, what if this edge location doesn't have any of the content requested by the user cached at the edge location? Well, that's when the edge location will then request the content from the origin. So whatever the origin is, whether it's an EC2 instance or whether it's an S3 bucket, the edge location will request those files from the origin, cache it on the edge location, and then serve it to the customer. So then the next time a customer or a user accesses that URL and they're located in Europe, then that information will already be cached at this edge location. So instead of having to go to the origin, pull that information from the origin and cache it again, it already has it cached, so it will just immediately serve it up to the customer. So instead of having to route down through to S3 or to an EC2 instance, the edge location one is going to be closer, most likely to the customer, and will have that information cached once it has already been cached once, and will be able to quickly serve it to the customer. Also, the customer's request then doesn't have to hit either the EC2 instance or the S3 bucket again and again. It's only going to hit the edge location. So if you are running a web application and you have several EC2 instances hosting up the content, what's going to happen is you're not going to have to scale out as much because all of your users aren't going to be hitting your EC2 instances. All of your users are going to be hitting the edge location. So when we talk about reducing cost by alleviating load on your underlying application, this is what we're talking about. So now if we have a new user come online, let's say is in the United States, and they request information, well then the request would come to this edge location. And again, if this edge location has already had a request for this particular information, then it will already have the files cached at this edge location, and it will just serve that content directly to the customer. If this edge location has never served this particular content before, it will then have to request it from the origins, cache it at the edge location, and then serve it up to the customer. But it will only have to do that once, or the first time that it is requested from that particular edge location. Okay, so let's dive back into CloudFront Essentials, and now let's talk about updating cache files. Well, caching is done based off the object name. And in order to serve a new version of an object, you have to either create a new object with a new name or create an invalidation on the CloudFront distribution based off the object name. Now, invalidations do have a cost. So if you have to invalidate large CloudFront distributions, then perhaps you should just create a new distribution and move DNS names. So what we mean by this is if you just have a few objects that you want to invalidate, then you can do that and it will not cost you that much. But say you have an extremely large CloudFront distribution with thousands upon thousands of objects. Well, it can cost you a great deal amount of money to invalidate all those and a significant amount of time as well to then just have them replaced. What you can do is you can just create an entirely new CloudFront distribution, which won't have the same cost as all the invalidations, and then just delete the old CloudFront distribution. That's one of the great things about AWS is it allows you to just disregard or terminate resources you don't need and quickly spin up new ones, right? We do that all the time with EC2 instances. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're architecting with AWS. Also, cached objects can also be set with a specific expiration time or date, or not set to cache at all. So why would you want to do that? Why would you want to set something to not cache at all? Well, because CloudFront also provides the availability to have signed URLs. So signed URLs allows access to private content by creating a temporary one-time use URL based off the number of seconds you want it to be accessible. And these are signed with X509 certificates. So let's say we have a consultant that comes to work for our firm for a temporary amount of time, and we need to grant them access to a specific set of sensitive files that we need to keep secure and don't want to grant public access to. Well, we can create a signed URL to these objects in our CloudFront distribution that may only live for, say, 60 minutes. Well, we can give that link to the consultant can access and download that file, and then 60 minutes later, that link will no longer be valid and can no longer be used by anyone else who may get their hands on it. So in summary, CloudFront is a global content delivery network that you can utilize for your applications in AWS, which helps to reduce latency and content load time for your customers, while also reducing load on your application services and reducing costs. And with that, we will conclude this lesson. Thank you for watching. You may now move on.